Race Driver Grid has to be one of the best racing games of all time. A part of a franchise that has a really dedicated and loyal fan base. Grid is personally one of my top 10 racing games, and unfortunately, it is a franchise that you can no longer play anymore. By that I mean that a majority of the Grid games have been taken off digital stores and you can no longer buy them anymore. The worst part is that it's not just one or two, but it's almost all the Grid games. The Grid franchise consists of 5 games, and those games are Race Driver Grid 2008, Grid 2, Grid Autosport, Grid 2019, and Grid Legends. Out of all the Grid games I mentioned, you can only buy one of them, and that is the latest one. Even though they rebooted the franchise with Grid 2019, they still delisted it, even though it came out only about 5 to 6 years ago, which is really sad because the old Grid games are the best ones. And based on what I've seen, it appears that the Grid Legends is the worst selling one, because for some reason it seems that the sales numbers were not made public, which is usually a sign that the game didn't sell well. From what I have seen, it seems that the Grid games haven't been selling the best, and that goes for the old and the new standards, because back in 2008, selling 2 million copies was a lot, to where now selling 2 million is considered a failure. Usually when a game has successful sales, it is over 5 to 10 million copies. If you sell less than 5 million, you are most likely going to get a sequel, but when the sequel doesn't sell better than the previous game, then you have a huge problem. And it's been more or less the same case with the Grid franchise. For Grid, it appears that the sales have been all over the place. For example, Grid 1's sales were not really made public, but apparently it sold over 1 million copies. And with Grid 2, it is said to have sold 2.2 million copies, which is good, but not the best. And with Grid Autosport, it is said to have sold 3.6 million copies, which is pretty good. And with Grid 2019, the reboot, it's probably just over a million. The sales numbers are not very accurate. Some people are saying more, some people are saying less. And it's the same case with the latest game, Grid Legends. I can't really find anything solid, but we can assume that it sold over a million, because I feel that since it is a next-gen game, next-gen gamers are more likely to buy games than people who aren't on next-gen. It's not hard to see that the latest Grid games took a very different direction to the old games, and I feel like this was a factor to why the franchise isn't around anymore, because as time went on, the Grid games focus less on their identity and more on their competition, because these days almost all car/racing games are looking the same, because they're all focusing on the same things. I also feel that not adapting to making an open world street racing game is maybe what also led to the franchise falling off. I would have loved to see a Grid street game, and yes, I know that Codemasters is linked to Need for Speed after EA bought them, but Codemasters used to have a specific style, and I would have loved to see a street racing game in their old style. EA bought Codemasters back in 2021, and this would kind of mark the downfall of Codemasters, because EA has a habit of shutting down studios, and now instead of Codemasters working on a new car game, they're helping out with Battlefield 6, and personally, I think that the Codemasters we used to know is gone now, and we will never get games from them like we used to. I feel that the EA influence will ruin the true Codemasters experience, and instead of the games being made with love and passion, it will most likely just be a bunch of racing sim garbage like we have been getting from them. DRM really ruined the Grid franchise, because at this point there's nothing left, and most of Codemasters catalog has been delisted from stores. And yeah, people would say, then why don't you just go buy CD keys? And to that I would say, have you seen the prices of CD keys these days? You find that the CD keys cost more than just buying the latest game new. And DRM did the same thing with a lot of the Codemasters games, of where there are so many of them that you can't buy anymore because they have been delisted. And with Grid Legends, we have no idea how much longer the game will still be available to buy, or even if we will be getting a new Grid game. The reason people like the Grid games so much is because they were just simple fun racing games. They didn't need a story or microtransactions. It was just you, the car, and the track, and that was all we needed. I see that the latest Grid game has a live action story, and I have no idea why it has that, because the older games didn't have it, and I feel that the franchise never needed it. But this is a clear case of overcompensation. Instead of listening to the fan base and fixing what was wrong with the previous game, they go so far back in the opposite direction that it is still the same thing of not being what you want. And now you don't even recognize or know what the game is supposed to be now. And that is how I feel. I really don't recognize Grid anymore. It looks like every other racing game now, and that's what they never used to be. So now the magic is gone, and so is the studio. The franchise is dead. For anyone who started playing it at the first Grid game, the games are gone, and now the fan base has left. And with that, this is the Chilly Man signing off. I thank everyone for watching. Peace out.